Hello and welcome back to Logan Sounds Off for another album review. Today I'm going to be reviewing Last Scream of the Missing Neighbours by Jello Biafra with D.O.A. This is an iconic punk album that is well loved by fans of the record label Alternative Tentacles. Founded originally to put out Dead Kennedy's music and has now grown to put out some amazing music to date, still making some fantastic music out there to listen to. The link to the Alternative Tentacles website will be in the description. And recently they repressed the vinyl version of this iconic album. And I was so delighted when I saw this, and I couldn't find it in Ireland for a little while until I noticed it on some websites across the place, and then I found it in Rollercoaster Records, one of my favourite record shops and the happiest little record shop in the world in Kilkenny. The link to their website will be down below. And this is really, really cool, this particular setup. Just your standard black vinyl here. So you can check that out on the website. There will be the link to purchase this particular record as well, or you could buy, maybe if you wanted, the yellow or black one. There's also some other editions up there as well, but it comes with this really awesome album cover. Obviously also there's a cool back cover here, both made by Winston Smith. The sleeve concept by Jello Biafra on this, and also you have this awesome lyric sheet. You have all the lyrics to all the songs apart from We Gotta Get Out of This Place, which I know is a cover, but it's a shame that it wasn't here because it really is a good song. Also you have this picture here, which the title is here, and I'll grab it for in a sec, but I just noticed I was going, why does that look familiar? And it kind of reminds me of Dr. Manhattan from Watchmen, which I'm actually reading at the moment. It reminded me kind of that character, and I thought that was really, really cool, that link. But that particular piece was called Stormy Weather. So you have Life as We Know It, The Money Tree as the back cover, Life as We Know It as the front cover, and then Stormy Weather for this man striding through a storm as if it's nothing like Dr. Manhattan. So awesome package here. When I brought this home, I didn't really know what was inside the sleeve, but I was excited to take it out and put the record on the record player. I had listened to this a lot digitally before I bought this on vinyl, so I well knew what I was getting into, but I also wanted to hear the remastered sound of this record as well. I wanted to hear it on vinyl because there's a lot of really interesting bass parts in this record. The bass playing is exceptional, and we're going to get into that and a little bit more. But just to give some story to this, if you're unfamiliar with the album Last Scream of the Missing Neighbours, this is a collaboration between Jello Biafra of Dead Kennedys, who are an incredible political punk band who unfortunately after their last album, Bedtime for Democracy, didn't make music anymore, and the link to this album review will be down below. And this is a fantastic record, and a lot of ideas that are in this are also shared with Last Scream of the Missing Neighbours. But Jello went on anyways to work with D.O.A. to make this fantastic album, which, although it is only 6 tracks, there's a lot of depth to it and a lot of different opinions that are really, really provocative. And it's an amazing way of looking at social commentary, that it's not just fantastic music, but it's also really cool opinions nearly. And it represents, I've mentioned actually in my Bedtime for Democracy review, that Jello has this really, really scary way of predicting things, such as Chicken Shit Conformist, where he kind of predicted nearly how brands and different political ideas would be, people would immediately conform to because it was meant to be the thing. People wouldn't have their own idea of what they like, especially with brand logos now, that's the case. And then as well you have songs like The Great Wall, which is literally says in the song, build a great wall around the power. That came true. That idea came true, and that was made nearly 40 years before the wall was even made. So it's very, very interesting seeing Jello predict something that actually happened. And This happens again on this record, especially towards the final track, Full Metal Jack Off, which we'll get into soon, which has some fantastic social commentary and also interesting ideas that have, unfortunately, because that is a song that does signal kind of Armageddon. Our current reality does have some things in common with that song, even though this was made in 1989. There's still so much depth to this album, especially starting off on the first track, That's Progress. And That's Progress is this really, really interesting track that starts off the album very bodaciously, has a very upfront start to it, saying it's a fantastic and very sharp burst of information all at once. And it's saying even that, just noting on, even there's one part that I really kind of thought was very interesting, where he was talking about Jello specifically. He was specifically discussing how a lot of natural landscapes have been taken over by shopping centres and new different facilities and taking away from the landscape, which I think resonates with all of us much more now in 2025, at the time of recording, when we're all trying to do our part to care for the environment and stop global warming. And that's why That's Progress is also paired with some very ominous music, with a very growling guitar, a very, very cool touch from D.O.A, their amazing guitar, a very powerful bass line as well, which the guitar and bass on this album are constantly working together to make a very punchy and very, very effective sound, because they're not meant to sound happy, they're not meant to sound sad, there's meant to be a signal of distress with a bit of hope. And that is illuminated not just by those instruments throughout the album, especially on the song We Gotta Get Out of This Place, which is a cover, but through Jello's vocal delivery, his vibrato on it. He completely changes some parts of the song, especially where he's saying one of the final lyrics of the song is "It's now or never, baby," and that nearly could close off the record, that particular sound. But we'll get to that track in a little while. It's a very noisy track though, That's Progress, that introduces the record, but very well written. The way that Jello addresses all these things, especially when he's getting very, very nearly, it sounds like he's quite anxious towards the end, the way he's singing, because he's nearly shaky with all the things that are happening. It's building up, and it's nearly a release of pressure when he's singing this, and when that plays along with the very, very aggressive and intense guitar sound, it really does make an iconic punk song that's really, really cool and opens up the album perfectly, especially to punk listeners. And I think that's continued on Attack of the Peacekeepers with even not even listening to the track. It's a very, very, very interesting statement, Attack of the Peacekeepers, which does make sense when you look at the lyrics. It's all about, we are humans, we're meant to keep peace, and some soldiers are meant to keep peace, but some soldiers in some places become corrupt and it ends up causing war, when that's not what we want. And it's very interesting where you have that oxymoron, Attack of the Peacekeepers. You have two things that shouldn't be paired together, but unfortunately they are, where you have, in some cases across the globe, in some cases you do have corrupt military that are going after people. And that's why the song, with its very fast, great vocals on the chorus, especially where you've got this chanting of nearly, it's like soldiers running into battle, chanting of multiple different people, with this very sharp attack in it, and very driving bass line. It's very intense. And really what Jello's saying is that he's not saying that we shouldn't have peacekeepers. He's saying peacekeepers should be keeping the peace across the whole globe. In no way is he saying that all peacekeepers are corrupt, but he's saying the few that are making problems. And I think that it does really hit you hard when you're reading it. And at the moment as well, when you're looking at as well, the time that this was in, it was the time that this was recorded, it was about keeping peace. It was trying to, this album especially, and I don't want it being confused as a hateful album, that it's like, oh, there's so much war and it's terrible, it needs to be finished. This isn't in any way that. It's a hopeful album. It's going, we don't want corrupt governments, we want safe places, we want soldiers who are good across the world instead of halfway or 3/4 of the way or even 99% of the way across the world. We want no war. And I think that's really why Last Scream of the Missing Neighbors is this kind of hopeful statement, which I think is really, really important. And then you have Wish I Was in El Salvador. And if you think the lyrics are dark and that's progress, Attack of the Peacekeepers is even darker. Wish I Was in El Salvador was one of the darkest lyrics I have ever read and listened to. Very, very dark, but an amazing bass line. Quieter guitars, but fantastic fills as well across this song, and has a very, very dark message. And I'm not going to get into that because I don't like to get into politics. The main thing I'm saying politically regarding this album is it's just about keeping peace and making sure that people aren't attacking each other. That's the main thing. And then you have Power Is Boring. This is a very slow start, but once you get into it, it's very, very, very fast. And great vocals on the chorus as well, where you've got all these people chanting, Power is boring. It's just fantastic. And a really kind of fast bass line as well. And this driving guitar that kind of takes away from the bass a little. I'd love to hear more bass. That's why it's handy when you have speakers, just to turn up that bass a little bit more. And then you have We Gotta Get Out of This Place, which is a fantastic cover, a prominent bass line, but covers sometimes don't work. Sometimes you have a cover thrown in there because an artist likes it, a musician. I'm in no way saying an artist shouldn't share covers of a person they like, but sometimes it doesn't fit in with the record. This completely does. It works so well with the concepts. Very atmospheric drums, a great, really vibrato voice, and very simple drums though at parts of it as well. But in no way am I demeaning them. They're very fast and very interesting. I really, really like them. And then side B, you're probably thinking, okay, we got to get out of this place. The end lyric is, it's now or never, baby. Great closer. It isn't done. We have Full Metal Jack Off, which it's in my top 5 punk songs ever. Very, very good. It's nearly 14 minutes. Like, it's massive. It's way up there with Dogs by Pink Floyd. It's a very long song. Doesn't feel like it though, but it's the weirdest punk song ever because it's a rhythmic ostinato. It's the same kind of thing unless it's the chorus for the whole song, and it works perfectly because the bass line works with it and the guitar works with it, with its overdriven sound and really, really fantastic thick walls of noise that are introduced in this song. And Jello's absolutely fantastic vocal and lyrical work on this song. It's his best in my opinion. To me, like, Last Scream of the Missing Neighbors is better than Bedtime for Democracy, and this is a solid 10 out of 10 album. This is one of the best punk records ever. So that's why I hate where people aren't talking about this. Like, this is amazing. If you like Dead Kennedys, this will blow you away. It's nearly better. Nearly. I'm not crazy, guys, but it's nearly as fantastic and as quirky as Dead Kennedys. But the reason why I'm saying it nearly is because it's not the same. I'm not saying in quality. You can't compare Dead Kennedys and D.O.A. with Jello Biafra because they're completely different bands. Dead Kennedys had a jazz influence, had different musicians, had a very different sound, had different dynamics. This album has covers 14-minute tracks. Dead Kennedys, the longest song on Bedtime for Democracy was, I think, 6 minutes, nearly 6 minutes. It didn't even make it. It was Chicken Shit Conformist. And the album had 21 songs. So you fit a lot in, and it wasn't even an hour long. This fits in 6 songs, all the noise. So you can't compare them, but they're so close together, but I can't compare them. Main reason because I'll upset some people, but as well, you can't really. But it's really, really kind of disturbing the world the Jello paints in this, and in a way that world kind of has become a reality in ways, not all the ways, but where you have that bad people are getting attention that they don't deserve, and people are getting sucked into this bad nearly machine. I know we mentioned Dogs by Pink Floyd earlier. Link to my Pink Floyd reviews down below. Wish You Were Here, Welcome to the Machine. It's people being taken into this machine and churned out with these, as mentioned on Bedtime for Democracy, chicken shit conformists who, unfortunately, as it mentions in this song, don't have unique opinions. That it's nearly, at the moment, it nearly predicted and also said this is what's happening. People aren't having their own opinions, and unfortunately that's what we see across the world. But the thing about this song is that you can interpret it, it's a double-edged sword. You can interpret it as a really depressing song that's going, the world is in turmoil, or you can take it as what I take it is as, it's a hopeful nearly letter, nearly like a letter, asking the human race to just have opinions and express themselves and work towards a brighter future and towards freedom and away from money and all these kind of things. It's a very interesting political idea that's addressed on this particular record. I mean, as well, the thing is, right, about Last Scream of the Missing Neighbours, as my final thought is, it addresses a lot of politics in a way where it's asking that there's people across the world who are corrupt, and there, in some countries, soldiers can be corrupt, and it's asking for bad people to literally, and it's this simple. Jello's asking to drive the badness out of the world. All he wants is a safe place to live. He says this in such poetic lyricism, and I know that some people will be going, that's a weird way to put it, but it is very, very interesting way of saying it. He stretches out all his reasons, and at the end of the day, all he's saying is, and when I say all he is saying, I mean it's the main thing, is he's asking for peace with the world, and there's many people who ask for that, and Jello just achieves this on this record. He doesn't want corrupt people hurting others. He just wants a just world, and I can completely agree with a lot of the things that he's saying on this record. And even I think this will be my final words, and I'm going to rate this album a 5 stars out of 5. All links for Jello Biafra, D.O.A, Alternative Tentacles, all down below. Purchase the record if you can, it's fantastic. Go to Rollercoaster Records and try and get your hands on the record as well. Links for Rollercoaster will be down below. This is what it says on the back of the record, and I think it sums up essentially the record perfectly. Members of this weird cult test their fate against the serpent's sting. Some die in agony, but the rest come back for more. Thanks for watching, guys.